My name's Kwame and I'm here with Nathan.
Hey,
Nathan.
Kwame.
Yeah, well, thanks. How are you?
Great.
So, can you tell me what's the biggest buzzword in 2020?
Yeah, so look, I think it's a lot of it's coming down to this idea. I don't know, you guys have spoken about mental health a lot here, and what seems to be maybe I don't know if it's a byproduct of that or just people paying more attention to themselves. But the big term we're using right now is financial wellness, right? And that doesn't necessarily mean anything itself, but what we find it focuses in on is what is there outside of just your finance that you should be worried about. One of the things that we've been presenting with a lot of people on is what does wellness mean to them and in general, right? But then what is the finance side of that? So what's causing you stress? What's causing you to feel unwell? And what can we do to help that, not necessarily achieve being well, but get you towards wellness? Yeah.
That's an interesting fact. So, when you talk about we, how does that relate to we and who is the we?
Sure. So my company, Credo Financial Group. So
Yep.
we started off, Credo as it is only 5 or almost 6 years old. But we have been around for a lot longer than that. Myself have been doing this for over 10 years, but I literally grew up around the industry and my father's still involved on the day-to-day. And when we talk finance, for us, the area we focus on is lending. So that's not just home loans, obviously, but that's the majority of people have, but all types of lending and how that can impact whether you're the biggest investor in the world and what you need to use for your structure to get to where you want to be or keep things going, right down to, hey, I just want to save some money on my home loan and try and get better towards retirement. When we talk wellness, though, we're talking about that being an issue or something people are focusing on no matter what. Money, and all the stats have come out around how much it impacts your stress levels and what your stress then does to your marriage and to, again, mental health, like we said before, and suicide rates and just depression. Money is one of those things that even if you've got some, or if you don't have enough, you hate it, but you desire it at the same time. It's a pretty unique thing, right? I know you guys, you work with money as well. You're always trying to get more, but what's more? Or why more, or what are you trying to get around? And that's where we come back to wellness on the lending side. No one wants a home loan, and they don't teach you about home loans in school, but you do want a home. That's the great Australian dream.
It is.
Right? So our job is to say, okay, well, what have you got in place, or what do you want to get in place? What do you want to get there? How do we help you achieve that? But also, how do we do that properly? And I think as a result of the Royal Commission last year, where this stuff was on the front page of the papers every day, and people are already scared about banks, already scared about money, and they're seeing all these big things and pitchforks about it and everything else. A lot of that came down to the mortgage broker side, which is essentially what we are at our very core, is mortgage brokers and then providing advice to people around that, or assistance, as we're the term we're allowed to use. So we said, okay, people are having conversations now and there's a lot of fear there. How do we break that barrier? How do we help educate people? Again, even if it's down to a small little, what I would call a little home loan, but to somebody else that's huge, right up to the top, people are always constantly questioning that. Have I got the cheapest? Is there something better I could be doing? That alone causes the stress, and then imagine everything else around it, right?
So, would you say that that's the biggest challenge then?
Yeah, I feel the biggest challenge is trying to get in front of the person who really needs the help, because they're already scared. You know, if you're falling behind your repayments, or you're only just making enough to barely keep up, and that can happen even if you're very well off, or seem to be very well off. Is how do we get in front of that person to say, hey, let me help you. Really talk to me. No, really talk to me. Right?
Yeah.
Let me really understand what's at the core here. What are you worried about? And is there something I can go and do for you? And the great bit about our business being in the mortgage broking space and the way we're remunerated is that won't actually come out of their pocket. The bank can't pass the cost on to them. We'll be eventually paid by lenders should we do something. But even if we don't, all those hours we put in, it's because we genuinely care. And I think a lot of people talk about what their core values are and whatnot. I think really mine comes down to that word care. Because if you care about that and you really care about the person you're speaking to and care about trying to help them, then of course you're going to find something, or at least have been able to have that conversation. So the biggest challenge is getting through to the people who need the help the most, who might not actually want to take that step, trying to remove the fear and remove that barrier. Yeah.
That's very interesting. So do you see the industry moving in a similar sort of direction as you at Credo, or is there still headwinds?
I think the finance industry will already moving into a direction that we feel we do, which and that's through things like the best interest duty that's coming out. Best is always a word that's been very much shied away from. In fact, it was not allowed to be used for a long time because who says what's best, right? What you think is the best pizza, I might not think is the best pizza. So who says it is the best? So if we remove the absolute definition of best and get to a point where best in time or best suits what we discuss, something like that. That's how we've always operated. The one of our big key differences or key points of difference at Credo has always been that we treat every client like they were our only client, and like my father used to do things in the 80s where he'd literally understand the client and then go and put all his notes together, put his ideas together, and take that to the credit manager. Now, you can't do that these days for a variety of reasons. You can't do that to the 40 odd different banks we talk to every day. But what you can do is provide that service and show that understanding and try to educate the client too, give them a copy of that and show that, hey, I've understood you, I've sat here and listened to what you want and need. I also know what will fit, so I'll marry that up and I will act in your interest and go and make that happen for you.
Yep.
So I feel like finance will go there. What scares me though is if it will only go there for a bit and then just do enough to seem like it's still going there. That's really the big worry around what could come. If it becomes easy or templated, then the thing that scares me is that then it's not really valued or understood well because someone's just doing the bits in the back end to make it look like they're doing that. That scares me. Yeah.
And moving forward, how do you communicate these changes to the potential clients?
Yeah, so we've got a number of ways we're trying to, and nothing's ever perfect, but we're always trying different things. So I try to do a lot of video content, so things like this would be great. On my LinkedIn, I try and do a bit of, every now and then try and go live on Facebook to sort of put some things out there. I'm just trying little bits and pieces. When clients send in the question, or if I found we've answered it, there's like a similar question a lot, or something keeps popping up, then I try and film like little videos. I find video content seems to speak to people a lot more these days, and that's just not your millennials, that's just people in general because we're on our phones more. And then try and publish little bits and pieces, whether that be newslettery type things or mail outs or some sort of material. Basically, what I'm trying to do, or what I want us as Credo to be doing, is putting as much information out there as possible so we can show people how we're trying to educate you.
Yeah.
And if we can, in doing that, remove the fear of someone thinking, oh, this is too hard or this is too scary, and at least, hey, I'll just have the conversation, then great, we've got one more person that we otherwise wouldn't have.
Yeah, it sounds like a great progress and the industry is moving in the right direction.
I hope so. I mean, the fact is there's still probably more people calling themselves mortgage brokers than there should be. There's probably more people calling themselves mechanics than there should be too, though, right? So
very true. I know a few.
I think I do feel like the industry and people are understanding it more, but the worry in that is that, like anything, what risks are on the other side, or if things come too easy, what might that mean? One of my other big things I'm worried about, sorry, I keep kind of just rambling a bit here, is money's not going to be easier to understand because there's more information, like anything in life, right? What's correct?
Yeah.
Or as a lot of the fintechs start coming out, the neobanks or whatever they want to call themselves, and I know a lot of them don't actually like that name, if they make things too easy, then it's going to start moving a bit of care and responsibility. I was thinking about this the other day. I have a daughter who's almost 3.
Yep.
Now, she knows what money looks like, and I'm trying to sort of teach her, but she doesn't see money like you or I probably used to, right? And that used to be why the banks had their power, because I remember going into National Australia Bank branch with my mum. My niece, who's in her early 20s, or my nephew, who's a teenager, would never have, or probably can't remember the last time he went to a bank with his parents. And why would his kids ever go into a bank branch? So how is this physical thing of money, will it even exist by then, right?
Yeah.
Like, I'm sure you guys would have a whole lot of opinions around what's the future of physical currency, what's the future of money. So if that's no longer seen or touched, or the value and the hard work behind it, how do we educate people in general to this thing, then the borrowing of it's going to just really fall by the wayside. Then credit and everything, we're kind of going down a bit of a rabbit hole here, aren't we?
Indeed, yeah. I remember going back years ago when I was at primary school,
right.
and we used to have the little pay-in books, and you used to get $5 from your parents and put that in, and you could physically see the money changing hands, and it
Sure.
would add up in the ledger at the end of the month.
So the cynic in you can come out and say, well, that was clearly a marketing exercise by that bank, right? And they've actually been pulled up on that.
Yeah.
But well, you're kind of damned if you do, damned if you don't a little bit too. So, you know, there's no one size fits all here. We're not going to solve the world's problems, but it's stuff to be mindful of.
Yeah, no, indeed. Well, thank you, Nathan, very much for coming in and having a chat with us today. It's been very interesting to hear about Credo and also what you're doing in terms of financial education on the lending side of things.
Thank you, man.
Much appreciated.
Cheers.